What I'm about to show you might look like a cool NERF rocket launcher, but its inspiration comes from a technology so controversial that it's banned in over 100 countries. These airburst munitions designed to explode mid-air have sparked global debates due to their potential danger to civilians. Stay tuned because we'll dive deeper into why this kind of technology is so heavily regulated and how to build your very own.
I left a six-figure job at Lockheed Martin building missiles to make this. This is a normal NERF missile, and this is the world's first 3D printed carbon fiber NERF missile that can airburst midair. Why would you need this? Why would you ever possibly need a rocket that could blow up in the air? There's no need for that, right? If you play a lot of NERF games, you'll find out that people don't like to get shot in the face, especially when I bring my type of NERF guns to the battle. They tend to run away. So in order to solve that problem, I developed this. With this, you don't even have to see your target. You just have to know where they're hiding.
Simply laser your target, the launcher will send the proper airburst timer to the round, and then when it's over the target, it will deploy, taking out your target.
Well, hypothetically, we still have to test it, but so far it's looking promising. Okay, so we have some bugs to work out.
Alright, here's how the insane NERF launcher works. First, it's got a built-in laser rangefinder, which locks onto a target and measures the exact distance. That data gets sent to an Arduino, which crunches the numbers and calculates the perfect airburst timing. Once I pull the trigger, the rocket launches and the onboard Bluetooth module sends the detonation delay straight to the round in real time. While the NERF launcher I built is all in good fun and non-lethal, it's inspired by a technology that, in its military form, has sparked fierce debates around the world. Airburst munitions, designed to detonate mid-air and dispense submunitions, have been heavily criticized for their indiscriminate nature and long-term danger to civilians. In fact, under international law, the Convention on Cluster Munitions, CCM, which came into force in 2010, bans the use, production, transfer, and stockpiling of such weapons in over 100 countries. Notably, a core group of European nations, including the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Norway, and Belgium, have implemented domestic laws that specifically prohibit these airburst technologies, citing humanitarian concerns and the risk of unexploded ordnance injuring civilians. This video was not filmed in those countries. Since this launcher will be primarily fired by one person, I need a way to latch the rockets in place. Here I'm building a latching mechanism that will hold the rockets in the firing position until they're ready to be fired. Here you can see the latching mechanism. When it's in the down position, it will hold the rocket in place. When it's in the up position, it will be ready to fire. I've attached a rubber band to keep tension on the locking mechanism. Once that's taken care of, all I have to do is tidy up the bolts, and we're on our way to having a launcher. Next up, we have to assemble the electronics. The launcher consists of an Arduino, a Bluetooth module, and a voltage regulator. After assembling everything, all that's left is to fit this into the electronics enclosure. Something that's easier said than done. I've also added a keypad for manually entering the airburst delay in case I need to bypass the laser rangefinder and enter a delay manually. I've also added a small screen to track the status of the launcher. With the launcher build complete, now we just have to make the airburst rounds. My brain is fried. So here's the magic behind the airburst rounds. Once I fire, the built-in countdown timer on the rocket starts ticking. When it reaches the programmed distance, right above the target, a small servo inside the rocket triggers the airburst charge to detonate, scattering 20 microdarts, taking out anything below, even behind cover. The first prototype for this rocket was printed in PLA, but once I worked out the design, I 3D printed everything in carbon fiber. I used a 3D printer's Bowden tube as kind of a guide rail to help guide the triggering wire through the body of the rocket. This will make more sense later. In the center of the rocket, I 3D printed a micro servo mount where I will mount the servo. Once the servo is in place, I can put the wire through the Bowden tube. This minimizes the friction and makes the deployment much smoother. And in case you missed that, the servo pulls the wire through the Bowden tube inside the rocket. This releases the sides of the rocket, deploying the NERF payload. All of this happens within the blink of an eye, roughly 100 milliseconds. Now that it's working, all that's left to do is put all the components back inside the rocket. Again, something that's easier said than done.
So I've ran into my first problem. Right now the launcher is not connecting to the missile, and I think it has something to do with how carefully I packed the wires inside of the main housing. So what probably happened is the wire became loose when I was packing it. So I'm gonna take everything apart, check all the connections. Hopefully it's a quick fix, but we'll find out very quickly. This is very interesting and not in a good way. Okay, I found the problem. It's this little piece right here. When I touch this piece of solder to this joint right here, it turns on. I just need to fix this and we should be all set. I should turn this off. Okay, if everything works, that should fix it. And we're back in business.
With the rocket working, all that's left to do is trim down the nuts and bolts to make sure it's aerodynamic and flies through the air seamlessly. And as for the propulsion method,
when I was designing this launcher, there were two primary ways we could power the rockets. One is compressed air. We could build like a giant potato cannon, but that is kind of dangerous and I don't think many NERF fields would allow that. The other method I was looking at is to use elastic spearfishing bands. So, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Elastic spearfishing bands go around these hooks on all the rockets. And this is actually a design that NERF incorporated into a few of their own rockets. They built this NERF whistling rocket, which has these little hooks in them. And this seemed like the safest option. We didn't want to get kicked off fields because this could be too dangerous or something. So all of the missiles I've designed have these little hooks. You load it in the front of the missile, pull it back, and then there's a little latching mechanism. When you push the fire control button right here, that sends the signal to release the rocket.
And then it starts the countdown timer for the airburst.
Now you can also fire different types of ammo. I'll put that down. Okay, for our first test, we're gonna start off with something very small and easy. Ghost target. Okay, this is gonna be our first test just to see if this works.
For this first test, I'm simply going to hold the missile over Mr. Ghost and then see if it deploys. If everything works correctly, we should get a deployment about a second after I hit the fire button on the launcher.
Okay, so we're about to start the test right now. I'm shooting NERF Hyper Gel balls out of this.
After carefully packing the rocket, we're finally ready to test.
Okay, right now I'm turning on the missile. Okay, we're about to try it. Let's go.
With the rocket working, we're one step closer to finishing this project. Next up, testing the system.
It worked. That's awesome. And before any lawyers get involved, yes, technically this is banned in more than 7 countries. However, this is not banned in America. As long as I don't take this to Italy or Russia, I should be okay. Now this launcher can shoot a bunch of different types of ammo. This one took the most time to develop. This is the Smart Airburst Round, a 3D printed carbon fiber masterpiece that packs more computational power than the Apollo missions.
In the back of the missile,
we have a Bluetooth module and an Arduino which powers everything. It controls when the system fires. And near the front of the missile, we have a customizable NERF payload system. So if I open this up, you'll see that we have these 2 big payload compartments that we can put anything we want this to fire into. For example, I have NERF Hyper Rounds, which are these little gel balls that NERF makes that we can put into the missile. And then it can also take a bunch of half-length darts. In testing, the Hyper Gel Rounds perform better because you can pack more of them in the missile. So you can pack about 20 half darts or about 30 Hyper Gel balls into the NERF round. Moving on to our next round, we have a standard PLA solid infill round. This is more of a fire and forget weapon. There's nothing really smart about it, but it's very cheap and it's very effective, and it really hurts. So I don't recommend getting hit by this unless you want a bad day. Moving on to the second round, we have a NERF certified whistling round. It's fairly safe. it still kind of hurts when you get hit by it. It's really cool because you can psychologically damage your target before you hit it with the airburst. Our next round is the GoPro round. This is a standard 3D printed round, and I printed this carbon fiber enclosure for a little GoPro camera. So you can actually see what your rocket sees in real time. It's really cool. Again, you don't have to use it, but it's kind of fun if you want to see the expressions on people's face right before they're taken out with this. It does hurt, so I wouldn't recommend getting hit by it, but that's their problem, not my problem. And moving on to the last, least exciting round is the normal NERF rocket. And as you see, I made it a little bit better. So I've 3D printed this carbon fiber hook that goes inside of the round. And this allows me to hook it up to my launcher, which makes this go way faster than it was ever supposed to. This one hurts the least amount and is honestly my least favorite round to shoot, but I have a bunch of them. It's also really good if you're trying to get this through into a NERF battle. You can show them this and then just smuggle in the extra rounds when they're not looking.
With all the technical details out of the way, now it's time to test this system for real. The first round we'll be testing is the NERF sanctioned whistling round. We really shouldn't run into any issues with this, but there's only one way to find out. Next up, we have the GoPro round. This one is actually one of my favorites. It's not perfectly balanced and a little bit front heavy, so I don't know if it's going to tumble once we launch it. We'll find out soon enough. Unfortunately, the streak of winning was about to come to an end. Next up, we have the Airburst rounds. While I was hoping they would work on the first try, they did not. As you might have noticed, we have a few problems here. The first being my aim. I don't know how I missed that target. It hit all around the cuffs. I have no idea what happened there. The second problem is that we don't have a deployment. The Airburst round is not deploying properly, so we need to troubleshoot.
Okay, so what appears to be happening is there's too much friction on this pin right here. So I'm going to add some lubrication to this pin. During the next test fire, we should get a good explosion. Okay, we had a premature ejection of shells, so we're gonna fix that.
So now we have another problem. Right now the launcher is activating too quickly, so we need to look at our formula and figure out why the rocket is detonating before it hits the target. And after looking at the code, I quickly figured out one of my formulas was messed up, but after fixing that, everything was back on track.
It worked.
With daylight quickly fading, we only had time for 1 or 2 more shots, so I really wanted to make this work. After 2 months of working on this project, I was about to find out if all of my hard work had finally paid off.
We got it!
And just in case you missed that, here's it in slow motion. You can see the rocket is deployed without being opened. And then right before impact, you can see it deploy, knocking over the target.
We got it!
After looking over the rocket, I was honestly surprised there was no damage to it. It looks like the carbon fiber is holding up very well. It was starting to get dark, but I wanted to take one more shot with a tracer round. This is the whistling round that I simply taped some lights to. I put the target at about 50 yards away, and honestly I was just guessing at the holdover. This was a very far shot and I really had no idea where the rocket would land. So close but so far. I have a few more NERF related ideas that I want to implement that should be a lot faster to make. So if you guys like this type of content, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys very soon.